Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Hope we're doing well. Happy afternoon to my East Coast, kind of central people. Good morning to my West Coast people. If you have the ability to, 29th, baby. Who needs to be 39? I'll be 29. Thank you. If you have the ability to turn your camera on, makes these a lot more fun. Would love to see your beautiful faces. I'm really excited for today's session. This is something that I feel like we've always been really, really good at the martial arts school, as well as at Grow Pro. That kind of comes naturally for me because I'm very much an A-type personality. Anybody relate? Maybe feeling like A-type personality. But I know that a lot of schools struggle with like structure and organization and really accountability in the day-to-day. And that might be holding yourself accountable, or it might be holding your team members accountable. So we're going to be going over 5 strategies that we've implemented both at the martial arts school as well as the agency that has really helped us with what I think is one of the most difficult parts of being a leader, which is holding other people accountable. All right. So that's what we're going to be doing. Those of you just popping on, hello, hello. I do have a blueprint. So if you're vibing with everything that I'm going over today, I'm giving you a 30-day blueprint so that you can implement these 5 strategies that we're going to cover. And it's broken down week by week by week. So week 1, focus on this. Week 2, focus on this. Okay. So I will be providing that at the end. All right. So if you guys are ready for me to get rocking and rolling, drop a 1 in the chat, please. You guys know I'm going to make you engage. I'm going to make you talk to me. It's so much more fun that way. Awesome. All right, let me go ahead. Thank you so much. And share the screen here. And let me get my chat over here so I can see your questions. And let me get the participants so I can let these people in. All right, guys, the monthly martial arts action success plan. So in the chat, just let me know how many team members, and I want to go with paid team members, not volunteers, paid team members. How many do you have on your team, please? Go ahead, drop them in the chat. It's going to kind of give me a good understanding of where everybody is. All right, awesome. And for those of you that have 0, don't worry, because this isn't just about holding your team accountable. It's also about holding yourself accountable, okay? Awesome. Thank you so much for those of you that are participating. Second question, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1, you're a white belt, 5, you are a black belt. All right, we'll use jujitsu belts. There's 5 of them. 1, you're a white belt, 5, you're a black belt. The organization of the day-to-day activities in your business, where do you think you are? The organization in the day-to-day. Some 4s, some 3s, 2, blue belt, 2. In the future, I'm not going to let you guys pick 3. I feel like it's like when you ask somebody on a scale of 1 to 10 and they pick 7, like, awesome. Okay, cool. So some of you are rocking with this. Some of you definitely have some room for improvement. Last question, level of accountability for your team. If you have a team, 1 to 5, white belt to black belt. If it's just you, what level of accountability do you hold for yourself? All right. Definitely seeing some lower numbers here, which is kind of, what I expected. Seeing some high numbers too. Awesome. All right, guys. So the mission for today, share with you my 5-step process to help hold you and your team accountable to getting all of the things done each and every month in your school. So we're really going to be looking at this from like a week-to-week basis that obviously makes up the entire month. Okay, and leave you with kind of like a checklist at the end of what I believe you should be implementing to hold your team to the highest level of accountability, or hold yourself to the highest level of accountability. Okay, so the agenda, we're going to go over my peak productivity system. I have a training, a keynote that I've done called $1 Million Productivity Hacks. And I've done this training not just in the martial arts industry, in the agency industry. People have flown me out to speak at their events because it's incredibly impactful. And I'm going to be taking some of the key concepts of that $1 million productivity training so that you can really learn how to maximize your time for efficiency so that you don't feel like, oh, there's never enough time in the day, or what did I just spend my day doing? The second thing we're going to talk about are performance points. If you find that your team sometimes lack motivation, this is going to be a really great accountability tool that you can implement into your school. Third thing is the Visionaries Level 10. And I will talk about this Level 10 meeting until I'm blue in the face, until every single martial arts school implements it, because I know for many of you, your meetings and your meeting pulse is one of the biggest puzzle pieces that you can be unlocking. Fourth thing, skill surge sessions, how we can elevate our team's excellence on a weekly basis, right? How often do we hold practices and classes and training for our students? Every single day. How often are you doing that for your team? Okay. And then finally, team tune-ups from somebody that really had a want to become an off-site owner. This was one of the most important things that I implemented, how you can stay on the same page. You know, when I asked you guys earlier, how many of you have, how many team members you have, a lot of you are like in the double digits. That's a lot of people to keep track of on top of all of your students. Okay. So we're going to talk about this team tune-up that, depending on the size of your team, can be a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly activity that you implement. Okay. One of my coaches, Dan Martell, he always says, build the machine that builds the machine. And you guys, as the owners and the CEOs, depending on what your goals are, if your goals are to grow, which I don't think you'd be on this call if that wasn't your goal, you have to build the machine that builds the machine. Because when we look at everything that we're doing as school owners, we're teaching, we're training, there's sales, there's marketing, there's HR, there's finance, okay? And almost every CEO in the martial arts industry that I know sits in the HR and the finance position as well, okay? Plus all of the other miscellaneous things that we have to do. My hope for you is to build a machine that builds the people that can do these things for you, okay? One of a really big kind of organizational mindset shift that I had early on is being able to break down responsibilities in our business on a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. If I asked you, what are all the things that you do in your business? Like, where do you start, right? So how about you just kind of reverse engineer it? Like, what are the things you're doing on an annual or biannual basis? I don't know, maybe you do like a spring cleaning and a fall cleaning. Maybe you have an annual meeting, hopefully, right? Then what are the things you're doing on a quarterly basis? Are you running quarterly reports? Are you doing quarterly instructor boot camps? Then what are the things we do on a monthly basis, and then weekly basis, and then daily basis? And I believe in this concept so much so that my team members can have this mindset that all of our job descriptions are broken down with their responsibilities daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And I'm actually going to show you exactly what one of those looks like, okay? And the schools that I believe have the most accountability built into them are the ones that are able to make data-driven decisions. I always say math is the path. And I don't want to make emotional decisions in my business. I want to make data-driven decisions. But we have to have systems in place that provide us with that data on a consistent basis, okay? I'm not sure how many of you follow me on social media. I did post this on social media. But I recently sold my school, Gracie Pack. I've owned it for 11 years. And to be honest, it was a no-brainer deal for the guy that bought it. His name's Billy Quarantillo. He's a UFC fighter. I've known him for 12 years. It was a no-brainer deal because it was not owner-operated. I was inside of my school 1 to 2 times a month hosting instructor training. It was team member operated, but it was able to be team member operated due to the strategies that we're going to go over. Now, I'm not saying that's your goal, right? Like, I don't know how many of you might want to eventually sell your school. It became something that I honestly felt like I had to do because of the growth of GrowPro and the amount of employees that we have here, that it was very difficult to give 110% to both of those. But even before GrowPro was an idea, I knew many years ago that I no longer wanted to feel like I had to be in my academy or that I was chained to my academy. And if I was there, I wanted it to be because I wanted to be there, not because I had to be there. And if you implement these 5 strategies, if it is something that maybe you don't want to be there 5 or 6 days a week, you really have to go from being the owner operator to being the owner. Okay, which means that you have the systems in place and you have the team members that are held accountable to implementing those systems. So, let's talk about accountability, right? I said earlier, I think it's probably one of the hardest parts of leadership, because holding people accountable sometimes means having what? Hard conversations. And if you're a staff member on here, right? If you're a program director, maybe there you have a front desk help admin, or you're a chief instructor and you have level 3 or 2 or senior instructors under you, it's your responsibility to hold your team members accountable. So accountability is really just the quality or state of being responsible for your actions. Okay. And one of the best questions to ask is like, how are you doing versus how are you supposed to do? And if your team doesn't have job descriptions outlining how they are supposed to be doing, that's something that you absolutely need to be implementing. If your school currently has low revenue, low enrollments, you have high churn, meaning you have a high attrition rate, you're losing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% of your student base, it's more than likely because you have low accountability, either for yourself or for your team members. I told this story at the last Maya Owners Boot Camp. I was doing a completely different keynote, but we were talking about accountability. And there was this really great study that happened in the fitness world. And what they did is they took 2 groups of people. Group A, during the holiday Christmas break, they said, work out when you want, eat when you want. The only thing we're going to ask you to do is step on the scale once a day. That's all you got to do. Just step on the scale once a day during the holidays. Group B, they said, eat what you want, work out when you want. You don't need to worry about stepping on the scale. At the end of like the 3 or 4 week period that they were having these split test groups doing, the group that stepped on the scale ended up on average being 1.9 pounds less. And the group that did not have to step on the scale, what do you think happened to their weight during the holidays? It went up so much, 4.9 pounds. So group A lost 1.9 pounds. Group B lost or gained 4.9 pounds. And the purpose of this story, guys, guess who the scale is in your business? It's you. Because the scale gives us accountability every time we're stepping on it, right? If I see it maybe creeping up, the next time I go for a snack, maybe I choose a different option. You are the scale in your business, okay? And you have to hold your team accountable. So why don't we, right? Why don't we have those hard conversations if things aren't where they should be, right? Or somebody isn't doing what they should be doing. And it's usually because we choose long-term dysfunction instead of just having a short-term fear of having a conversation. We've all been in this position in our personal lives, in our business, where we know that we need to have this conversation. We just keep putting it off. We keep putting it off. We keep putting it off. You finally have the conversation. And then what do you think in your head? Why did I wait so long to have that conversation? Okay. So if we had to break down what accountability is, this is the formula. Expectations. You have to set expectations. You have to set expectations. And one of the easiest ways to do this is through your core values in your company. That's your guiding light, okay? And through job descriptions. That's how we set expectations, okay? And you can't just like, oh, I said it to them once. They're not going to remember, okay? And for those of you that don't have teams, if you want to eventually bring team members on, you are going to have a lot more success with them if you do provide core values that everybody needs to follow and you do have job descriptions, okay? Then there needs to be some form of a measurement, okay? We call these scorecards, and we're going to talk a little bit about them here in our weekly meeting, okay? If I give you the expectations and I tell you this is how we're going to score you, and then I provide you feedback, that is what accountability is. When do you provide feedback? When do you let them know, how well they're doing based off of the expectations and the KPIs, the scorecard, the measurement? We're going to do that with our weekly team tune-ups that we'll talk about with strategy number 5, okay? So I think all of us would agree if we had more accountability in our companies, we would be further along. So let's go through 5 strategies to help you have more accountability, okay? Number 1, the peak productivity system. We have to maximize our time for efficiency, guys, all right? This was probably the biggest lesson my son, Cruz, he is my biggest teacher. He doesn't even know it yet. He's not even 4 years old, and he is the greatest teacher that I've ever had in my life, okay? I knew that the moment he was born, I had to make sure that I was efficient as possible with my time, because it doesn't matter what your skin color is, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter where you're born. We all only get 24 hours in a day, okay? So have you ever felt like there isn't enough time in a day? Of course, right? Ever wonder at the end of the day, like, what exactly did I proactively do? Or is the only thing that I do was reactive and putting out fires all the time, okay? And for those of you that have team members, do you have any team members that you believe could be more efficient? I had a client send me a text message the other day saying that, his instructor was coming in at 2 p.m. and classes didn't start until 4 p.m. and was complaining that like the instructor was just sitting there eating lunch and messing around on his phone. Well, what is listed in his job description? What is listed in his calendar? What is listed in his time block that he should be doing between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m.? Okay. So how can we get the team more efficient? I will die on this hill of time blocking, guys. Okay. I believe that every one of your full-time positions, you should have a time block for them. I think that some of the reasons, because we rolled this out at GrowPro, and I initially got some pushback saying it's too restrictive. It's actually the exact opposite. It gave them even more freedom. So we're going to talk about time blocking, but we're going to do it based off of their job descriptions and what their responsibilities are on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis. Then we're going to do a time audit. We're going to theme our days, and we're going to work in some buffer time. Okay, so this is a picture of our chief instructor's job description. Okay, did some screenshots here. So this is exactly what it is. You guys are going to get this keynote so you can straight up R&D, which is rob and deploy, right? But this job description and the way that it's set up, I feel like is one of the best ways that you can roll this out. But the job description, it has general information, it has the position's goal, and then it breaks down the key functions and responsibility daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Okay? It can't be made any more clear of what are the responsibilities and expectations that I have of you for your position. Okay? If you have a team and this is not something that you've implemented, I highly suggest that you do if you're finding that you're struggling with your team meeting expectations and having low accountability. And when we hire somebody, they read through this and they sign off on it. Okay? So when you're deciding to do the time block, we've got to make sure that these responsibilities are built in. Okay? Ms. Ramos, we added time blocking to our instructors because they would spend 2 hours in calls and then have time for nothing else. Yeah, right? It's also a good time for them to know when do you shut it off and move on to the next thing, okay? Another really powerful thing that you can do, especially if you have team members telling you that there's just not enough time in the day, is have them do a time audit. And I challenge you as the owner, and if you've done one in the past, but you haven't done it in the last 6 months, you need to do it again, okay? if I am not consistently buying back 50% of my calendar every year, I'm not going to hit my goals. Okay. It's a very humbling thing to do, especially for people that say, I don't have enough time, because what you audit is every 15 minutes, you write in what you are doing every 15 minutes. Okay. I would recommend doing it for a minimum of 1 week. For most people, I recommend 2, just because there's a lot of like bi-weekly things that occur in companies. Okay. So based off of this time audit, truly believe that you will find you actually do have a lot of time. And I think it helps to motivate people to move to time blocking and utilizing, whether you like, pen and paper. I'm a huge Google Calendar fan, utilizing that. Okay. Another really great thing that we implemented was theming your days. And again, we did this in the martial arts school. We do it here at GrowPro. You as the CEO, I recommend theming your days, and it's something that you should assess on a quarterly or 6-month basis as well. What is the main focus for Monday? What is the main focus for Tuesday? So on and so forth. Does that mean that's the only thing that you or your team are doing? No. Okay, it just means that the main focus for this day is going to be meetings. The main focus for this day is going to be trainings. The main focus for this day is going to be prospecting and following up. Okay. One of the things that you have to remember, especially in the program director position or the front desk position, is that you have to schedule in buffer time for them, because they are in what we call reactionary positions. They can't get to choose when the phone rings, right? And if the phone rings, they need to pick it up. If you have a walk-in, you're not going to say, oh, sorry, I'm doing inventory, I can't talk to you right now. So one of the things you want to make sure that you leave time in this time block for is buffer time. Okay. Dojo, are those the only themes we should focus on? Or, I mean, it really depends on where you're at in your business. I think these are, some of the, main ones that you should. Monday for us is always a meeting day. I know some schools will push it back to Tuesday. You really can't push your meetings back any further than that, because the purpose of the meeting is to set goals for the week. Okay. And then by the second or third day of the week, if we're not on track, then we can kind of adjust the sails of where we're going. Okay. For us, Wednesdays have always been like big on retention, like you are awesome cards, we miss you cards. Thursdays have been training. Tuesdays we'll do like rat cards, going out and putting rat cards. So it just depends on the level of, marketing that you are doing and other retention-based systems that you have. This is just an example. I'm not saying this is the one you need to. I do believe, as the CEO, if you are sitting in the CFO position, Fridays should be your finance day, your stat days. Okay. All right. So we want to make sure that we are scheduling in this buffer time. And one of the things that I love to ask my team members when we are trying to implement a new system, because nobody likes change. All right. And if your business isn't changing, it means it's not evolving and growing. As you grow, your business should evolve and change. Anytime I'm asking them to do something that isn't a normal thing that we're putting in place, I ask them to try it on. This is something that I learned from Kelly Murray. Used to have Kelly come in when she used to live in Florida and train our GrowPro team and our PAC team. And when we initiated doing time blocking, we got some pushback from it. And they were like, well, if I'm, wrapping something up at 12:59 and the clock hits 1 and it means I got to go to something, like, no, it's not black and white like that. It's just to keep you on track, to make sure that the things that we should be prioritizing are prioritized because they are on the calendar. Okay. So one of the suggestions, if you are making changes in the systems of your business, is to ask your team to try it on. Guys, we're going to try this on for a week. We're going to try it on for 2 weeks. We're going to try it on for a month, maybe even a quarter. And we're going to ask you for the feedback, because we want to create a culture of feedback. That's how we get better. And then we will adjust then. Okay. Personally, I live and die by my Google Calendar. And in the business, this was the one thing that I implemented that made me feel much more comfortable being in the school every single day versus, maybe being in the school 3 to 4 days. So I'd love to know in the comments, how many days out of the week are you physically in your school? And if you have multiple locations, then, your schools. 4, 6, 5, 6 to 7, 7. 5 to 6. McClung's 1 to 2. Awesome. 5, but mentally I'm gone. Okay, so I'm seeing, some higher numbers there. So I'd love to know, yes or no, are you okay with that? Or would you like to lower that amount? And hey, for those of you that are in your school 6 or 7, like if that's what you want to be doing, that is amazing. That means you're getting to live your best life. All right, Mr. Pamper said yes. Mr. Pedro, no. Awesome. At the moment, okay, no. Trying to get Trevor out of there more. Gotcha, no, no. Living the dream, love it, okay. Would like to lower it, okay, until I'm 70. All right. Okay, so definitely seeing, the majority of the people are saying no, or that they would like to lower it. This was the one thing that I implemented that made me feel really confident in being able to do that. And I think most every school has some form of a calendar for your events, right? Like when are we hosting our pianos? When are we going to have buddy days? When are we going to have the in-house tournament? But the other things that run the business don't end up on this calendar. And my biggest fear is my team would come in and my program director would ask, all right, Professor Chris, what are we doing today? And if I was there in the building, I would be able to give them direction. But if I'm not there in the building, what direction do they have? So I joke all the time that my Google Calendar is my boss, but it's the same thing for my team because it's all inside the Google Calendar, okay? So I'm a little bit of a nutcase with color coordination, really like color coordination. So it's all color coordinated depending on the category. It doesn't matter what color you pick, okay? All of our meetings and trainings go onto this Google Calendar. You can see every Thursday, team training at 2:30, okay? All of our events, triple R, every single month you need to have a recruiting event, a retention event, and a revenue event, okay? All of those events go onto the calendar. And I feel like for most schools, they probably have that, right? Okay, we've got our, weekly meetings and trainings on the calendar, and then we have our events, okay? Maybe you have like your testing and graduations, but most schools don't have these 3 things. One are the marketing action steps that are required to make the event successful. If you're hosting an in-house tournament, I want you to just think, what are all of the steps that have to happen in order for it to be successful? Right? Assets have to be made. Checkout pages have to be made. Events on Facebook have to be made. We got to put it on the lobby TV. We got to print out 4x4s. We got to make mat chat announcements, right? There's all of these things. Well, when are they supposed to get done? How often have you realized, oh my gosh, we have a P&O coming up and we haven't even told anybody? This to me is kind of the next level of accountability, is having, when do the emails go out? When do the text messages go out? When do we need to have the graphic ready for print? When is it being posted on social media? Okay. And what we ended up doing is once those items are done on the calendar, they change it from whatever color it is to gray. And that's how I can know as an offsite owner that, hey, that thing got done that day. I get to use it as a feedback loop, okay? The other things that not a lot of schools put on the calendar are when are you doing inventory and when are you doing orders, okay? My team would just randomly order stuff at all different times, and that's hard to kind of keep track of cash flow. So we have specific days. You could see BJ's Run and order on Amazon. It's always the first Thursday of the month, okay? And then lastly, HR. Guys, you should know when your team's birthdays are. You should know when the anniversaries are. You don't need to, drop a lot of money. Like a simple handwritten card can really go a long way, but that should also be on the calendar for everybody to see so we can celebrate, their milestones. And then we also put PTO. So if somebody's going to be out, you could see like here on the 16th, it says Brandon is out. We know that they're going to be out that day. Okay. This really gave me a level of comfort when I decided that I didn't want to be in the school every single day. I knew these things were still getting done. Okay. So huge kind of unlock. Okay. The last part of, this peak productivity system, right, is EODs. Okay. Also known as end of day. One of the first things that I really wanted was not to have to feel like I needed to stay in the school until 9 p.m. And I always felt like, oh, well, I'm going to miss something. So, I didn't go from like being in my school 6 days a week down to none, right? I baby stepped it, went from 6 days down to 5, down to 4, down to 3. And I would also adjust the schedule because I would get in my school at 9 a.m. I know a lot of school owners that work 12, 14, 16-hour days. And if you have a team, you shouldn't have to do that. I think at the beginning, chapter 1, yes, you got to hustle, you got to grind, right? But eventually we want to get to a place where, hey, if your daughter or your son has a soccer game at 7 p.m., you want to feel okay leaving the school to go do that. So we implemented our EOD, and they're just measurables. They're KPIs. They're part of the scorecard. And what that did is it gave me confidence that at the end of the day, I knew exactly statistically where the school was. So you've got to choose the KPIs you're interested in knowing and how you want to get that information. At first, I had it as a text message. Then I hated that my phone was blowing up. So we switched to a Slack channel. Maybe you want them to put it in a Google Sheet. It's completely up to you, the medium. Okay. So we use Slack, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And basically, they fill out a form, and then the answers populate inside of our Slack channel. So we have an end of day Slack channel. And the program director has an end of day form that they fill out, and then the head instructor, chief instructor has one. So number of leads, web leads specific, any other leads, if we have any walk-ins, how many appointments, how many shows, how many people did you close, how many new appointments did you book, any new trials, renewals, upgrades, cancellations, active count, and then notes. And I tell them, I want a note no matter what, even if everything just went great, I want a note. Okay. And this was how I was able to keep a pulse of what happened at the academy at the end of the day. And then our instructor team has one as well. I want to know what the attendance, did you do any nominations? Were there any injuries that I need to keep a lookout for? Any behavioral issues? How many sniper chats did you do? Which is one-on-one little quick, like 2 to 3 minute chats with parents and kids after class. Any rank ups, and then again, the notes. And this was one of the things that I implemented when I wanted to no longer be in the school 6 days a week, that really gave me the confidence to be able to do that. Okay. So I'd love to know in the comments, whether it's the end of day, whether it's a Google Calendar, whether it's, job descriptions, maybe it's theming your days, maybe it's time blocking. What was your biggest takeaway on one that you could implement that might help you have more accountability for your team? Just let me know. Put it in the chat. Theme for the day, themes, the end of day. Awesome. Job descriptions, time blocking and theme, time blocking. Add the annual, quarterly. Yes, love it. Themes, job descriptions, time blocking, calendar. Okay, beautiful. End of day, working on that. Schedule the to-do list leading up to the events in the calendar, not just the events. Yes, that is huge, right? The marketing actions. And I don't want to, Mrs. Roy, we're going to have a really, really great announcement at All Systems Go and CMA Day that I think is going to really excite some of you guys. All right, very cool. End of day scorecard. Awesome. Very cool. All right, guys. So that's strategy number 1. Okay, let's go into strategy number 2, which are performance points. And this is not something that I created. This is straight up from Maya. Can you share the form, please? So, sir, you're going to get this keynote. This is just a Google form. So I don't want to share our Google Forms. I don't want anybody kind of, messing with that link or anything. But all we did was created a Google form, and then we zapped it right into Slack. If you use Slack, you can actually create a form inside of Slack that they can fill out. So you don't need to use a third party. When we had initially set it up, Slack didn't have that feature, but it's just a Google form. That's it. So created it in our Google Drive. Okay. And these are all the things that we ask for at the end of the day. Awesome. So performance points. This is not something I created. This is from Maya Martial Arts Industry Association. I am their digital marketing consultant. But it's a way to gamify your goals, right? We all love games. We all love playing games. And when you can figure out ways to make it more fun, you're going to get more out of your team. So the goal is we're always scoring a point on the board each and every day, no matter what. These point systems are leading indicators. It's a feedback loop letting us know, are we on track or off track? Now, I do believe if you're going to implement this, you need to figure out a way to track it. And again, guys, I'm not here to tell you the medium, right? I love writing on an iPad and taking notes on an iPad. Some of you might prefer a Remarkable. Some of you might be, pen and paper. So you've got to figure out the medium. I just want you to understand the concept. So whether you're tracking it on a whiteboard, whether you're tracking it on a spreadsheet, I don't care where you track it, you just need to track it, okay? And this is how the point system works, okay? For every appointment that you set, that your team sets, that puts 1 point on the day. So I'm, Grow Pros generating us leads. The lead comes in, my team calls them, they book the appointment that for, Thursday at 6 p.m. You book an appointment, you get 1 point, okay? Renewals, if you get a renewal. Now, if you're not currently doing renewals, maybe you do a month-to-month, or maybe you do a 12-month agreement and then it rolls over into a month-to-month, then you might need to figure out something different to keep score on. This is based off of the Maya systems that we teach, okay? But if you get a renewal, it's 2 points. If you enroll a new member, not a trial, a new member, okay? And for Maya, our basic beginner program is 12 months. You're going to get 4 points. And if you get an upgrade, meaning you upgrade somebody from like basic to elite or elite to masters, you're going to get 4 points. And what this does is help to gamify the experience for your team. Okay. And if you have, multiple locations, getting to put one location up against another to make a healthy competition. Okay. Other things that you could add into keeping score would be trials, right? If you do like a paid trial, you could do paid trial. You could do paid in fulls if you take paid in fulls. So I'm just trying to give some ideas for those of you that might not do renewals and upgrades. And if you don't do renewals and upgrades, you should get on a call with Mike Metzger, because I believe he can convince you to do one. And I'd be happy to pass out his information for anybody that is interested, okay? But there's a reason why video games are so addictive. There's a reason why when you go to tournaments and you're competing in a jiu-jitsu tournament, we're keeping score, okay? Figure out a way to gamify this for your team to help them stay motivated as well. Ms. McClung, yeah, so in terms of your team, one thing that I would look at is the number of sniper chats. You could do sniper chats based off of a certain point system. Upgrade nominations, right? How many nominations did we give out? You could do handwritten cards, right? How many handwritten cards did we write out? So that's just kind of me spitballing. This is definitely more so for the off the mat team than the on the mat team, but I definitely think that you could implement something specific for the instructors as well. Okay. No injuries, right? That's always good, right? No injuries having on the mat. Cool. We got a point for that. Okay. Awesome. All right. Next up, the Visionaries level 10. So let me just start. This is, again, I always, give credit where credit is due. This is not something that I created. It's something that I went all in on. I read Gino Wickman's book, Traction, back in 2015. My wife and I locked myself in my office at the time, which had no windows and very ugly brown paint. So it was very not inspirational, but this is the first time that we created our core values in our company. And the level 10 meeting comes from EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. you have to have a meeting pulse. And depending on the size of your school, the number of team members you have, the number of locations, there is no black and white, right or wrong answer for what that meeting pulse looks like. Okay. But you got to have a meeting pulse in place. And what we do our level 10 once a week at the leadership level. And then for GrowPro, we do it at the department level. For Gracie Pack, we just had the one kind of leadership level, which were our full-time employees, as well as me, the owner, okay? The only reason why you miss a level 10 is because you're on vacation or you're dead. That's the level of seriousness, okay? And here's the thing, guys. A lot of holidays fall on what day? Monday. And this is why on your Google Calendar, if you know you're going to be closed on a Monday, that doesn't mean you just skip the level 10. You put it on a Tuesday. But your team should know that, right? So the reason why I believe the level 10 meeting is so powerful is because of the concept of dropping it down. Okay. And I'm going to give an example here for a second, but we have been, like I said, implementing EOS since 2015, and I self-implemented for the longest time. And now I actually have an implementer. He comes to our business 4 times a year. It's $6,000 a session. So it is a very, very large investment. It's not cheap, okay? But we self-implemented at first because we could not afford that. And one of the biggest issues I think that happens in meetings are side quests, right? It's like, okay, we're on this road right now. We know these are the things that we need to happen, but a side quest happens. For example, like, we're going through our numbers and we notice that our enrollments are low. So you go on this side quest or this tangent of why could that be? And then you never get back onto the main road, which is why a lot of not only owners, but team members feel even more overwhelmed at the end of a meeting when they're supposed to have a super clear vision of what the week is going to look like. And level 10 has this concept. If something is off, we're not talking about it right then and there. We're dropping it down to the issues list. And doing so is going to keep your agenda on track. All right. And this is what I think is one of the most powerful aspects of it. So for those of you that already are running level 10s, this is going to be a good review. Always good to hear it more than once. For those of you that have never done it, this is what it is. Every meeting starts with good news. For us, we do personal good news and business good news because I care about my employees and I want my employees to know that I care about what's going on in their personal lives. Okay. Also, it's like the reason why we ask our students before class was like, how was your day going? Like, we want to be able to reframe people. So if they are not necessarily in a great mood, it's impossible to be grateful and upset in the same moment. It's literally impossible. So don't just skip this over because it's, like woo-woo or we don't have time for that. It's setting the tone for the meeting. Okay, so we go around. And depending on how many people you have, you might have to have a timer. We had to do this. One of our manager level 10, I think there's 10 of us in there. And it's like, we got 5 minutes, you got 30 seconds. Timer's on now. Because sometimes you will have long-winded people, okay? Then we review our scorecard. So the scorecard are the metrics that the people in our company own. And our chief instructor owns metrics, and our program director owns metrics. And they have to go in and they have to put those in. And every single one of the metrics, for example, how many leads came in the last week, how many appointments, how many shows, how many closes, how many nominations, how many upgrades, how many renewals, right? The traffic stats, the revenue stats, okay? If something is not where it's supposed to be, okay, we have a software system that turns it red. We're not talking about it right then. Guess what we do? We drop it down because there is a section in the meeting. It's the longest portion of the section where we're going to talk about this stuff. Okay. The third thing that we go over are rock reviews. And these are the 90-day projects that we committed to implementing that are kind of outside of the day-to-day responsibilities. And we just ask, are you on track or if you're off track? If you're off track and it's because you're stuck or you need help, then guess what we do? We drop it down and we'll talk about it when we get to issues. My favorite part is the customer employee headlines. And this is a great opportunity for your team to give shout outs to each other and bonus points if they can tie a core value to it. So we'll go over, all right, what are all our customer headlines? Good, bad, and ugly. Good, bad, and ugly. Everybody needs to be on the same page that this is what's going on with this student or this family. Okay. And then employee headlines. Employee headlines, hey, I really appreciate Coach Nate. He stayed after his normal shift because, I was stuck in a sniper chat and he helped continue to run the class. Just an example. Okay. 5 minutes on the customer and employee headlines. Then we recap the previous week's to-do list. Man, one thing I can't stand is if I ask somebody to do something or somebody volunteers and they don't get it done. It's not fun getting called out in front of all your peers and your boss if you ask, hey, did you get this to-do done? And they have to say no. That just having that level of pressure oftentimes is enough to make sure that they get it done. So we recap any of the to-dos that came out from the previous week. Okay. Then we IDS, we identify, we discuss, and we solve. And depending on the size of your team, level 10 meetings can be up to 90 minutes. In the martial arts school, ours was typically around 60 minutes. Also, if you start breaking it down departmental, our HR and finance level 10 is 30 minutes long. Okay. But this is where the bulk of your issues are going to be getting solved. We identify the issue, we discuss the issue, and we solve the issue. Anybody on the team can add issues. And I also like to remind people it's not just issues, it's also ideas. If you have an idea of something that we should implement in the company, this is your opportunity to speak up because we have a culture of feedback. Okay. One of the things that can happen, especially the first time you do this, you might have 30 or 40 issues. All right. And guys, every single company has an issue. I'm part of a mastermind program called 7-Figure Agency. And there's a top level mastermind called the Titans. You have to be doing multiple 7 figures. And on Friday, we're all in a group Facebook message. And the guy that runs the mastermind sends us all a group message that says, what are the highs for your week and what are the lows for your week? And there's a couple of people in the group that straight up are egotistical. And they say, high is this, and this. Low, we didn't have any lows. And I'm just like, BS, you didn't have a low. There's no company that I don't know that if everybody on their team did a weekly review of what happened that week, that there wouldn't be something that they could improve on. Okay. So we go through all of these issues, and depending on how many that you have on there, you might have to vote what are the top 3. Some issues might take the full 30 minutes to get through. Other issues might take 2 minutes to get through. Okay. This is where we solve. And also what's going to end up coming out of these issues are either this isn't something we really need to focus on this quarter because it's not in line with our quarterly goal that we set at the beginning of the quarter. So we're going to put this as a long-term issue that we'll come back to at the end of the quarter. Okay. And for me, that had been really difficult because I always wanted to try to fix everything immediately, but it might not just be a priority right now, depending on what our goal is. Okay. In some cases, to-dos are going to come out of this issues, right? In order for us to solve it, Johnny, you're going to have to do this thing. Miss Ramos, you're going to have to do this thing. And this person's going to have to do this thing. So we assign to-dos. All right. After that, we conclude the meeting. We recap the to-dos. This is something we were not doing. You have to recap the to-dos. Johnny, you're doing this. Katie, you're doing this. Jeanette, you're doing this. Any clarifying questions on that? Then, are there any cascading messages? Is there anybody else on the team that isn't a part of this meeting that needs to know what's going on here? Maybe you decided to change your introductory times, right, for prospects. Maybe your level 1 and level 2 assistant instructor that's not in the meeting, they need to know that. What are the cascading messages? And then finally, we rate it 1 to 10. 1, this should have been an email. 10, I feel clear, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go. Anything under an 8, the person, and we tell the team, if it's under an 8, you need to let us know, give us feedback on what could have made it better. Okay. Awesome. Love the recap. Who's going to do what? Yes, sir. Guys, I'm telling you, our business completely transformed once we implemented this level 10 meeting. And I know there's a lot of different ways to run meetings. I've tried a lot of different agendas. This has been by far the one that has made us the most efficient and has allowed for the most accountability. Okay. With this level 10, what did you like the best? Is it the good news? Let me know in the chat. Is it the scorecard? Is it the customer employee headlines? Is it the IDS? What did you like best? Jenny gave us all rocks and we're like 80%. I love it. Very cool. And you're only halfway through the quarter, Ms. Ramos. Awesome. Yes, Jessica says ideas. Very cool. The breakdown. Thank you, Steph. IDS. The time limits. Yes, let's keep this baby on track. The rocks and the to-dos, cascading messages. Awesome. Very cool. All right, guys. Last two. Skill Surge sessions. We run practices for our students every single day. How often? Let me know in the chat. How often are you hosting? Not a meeting. A training, an actual training, whether it's an off the mat training, an on the mat training, how often? And I only want to know if it's consistent. Okay. It's, yeah, you know, we do it here and there. Like, how often? Thank you. Miss Lawson says monthly, once a month for all of our instructors, once a month, weekly, quarterly, weekly on the mat, monthly general business. Awesome. Keep them coming, guys. All right. I truly believe that happiness and that, let me rewind. I know for me, I have always been the happiest in my life when I feel like I'm progressing. People don't want to stay stagnant in life, guys. You're either growing or you're dying. And us as entrepreneurs and CEOs, like for many of us, that comes natural. You've got to make sure that you are giving your team opportunities to improve their skills. And, you know, it's this whole concept Richard Branson talks about, like, oh, you know, people are scared to train their team because they're scared they're going to leave. Well, what happens if you don't train them and they stay? What kind of service are you going to offer then? I believe that should have weekly training sessions on your calendar. Okay. Chris, well, what should I train my team on? I don't know what your team needs to work on. How do you know? Everybody wants this. Give me this week 1 training. Give me, what do I do week 1? What do I do week 2? No, the trainings that you choose should be based off of your scorecard results in your level 10. Hey guys, we're getting a ton of leads, but we're not converting them into appointments. We haven't done an appointment setting training in a while. Let's go ahead and put that in for this week. Okay. Math is the path. Make data-driven decisions. Let your numbers tell you what you need to improve on. I don't have the answers. Your numbers have the answers. Stop looking for some cookie cutter black and white implementation because it doesn't exist. Okay. So your scorecard, performance assessments. Are you doing quarterly performance assessments, annual performance assessments? What are you seeing on there? Okay. And then monthly tune-ups, which we're going to talk about in a second. Great message, Chris. Thank you, sir. Okay. Another thing that you can do, if you're like, Chris, we're perfect. I don't know what we could improve on. Go ask your customers. So we send out a monkey survey. It's completely anonymous to our members. What do you love about Gracie Pack? What do you not like about Gracie Pack? Anything, any ideas that we can implement? You better believe your families are going to let you know what they want to see improved. So if you truly believe your business is perfect and you don't have anything to improve on and you're not sure what you should do with your skill surge sessions, which I'm telling you, your scorecard and performance assessments and your one-on-one conversations with your team members should tell you. But if still you need some guidance, ask your customers. Okay. And then the weekly review. So skill surge sessions, guys, at a minimum monthly, at a minimum. Okay. One of the things we just started implementing is this weekly review. I learned this from a guy named Dr. William Attaway. And you would do this on Friday. It could be, you know, hey guys, put this in Slack. It could be during a stand-up meeting. But what went right this week? What went wrong this week? And what would I do differently in the future? Okay. Oftentimes, our team members will be harder on themselves than we ever would be. Self-reflection is very, very powerful if done in this type of setting, okay? So ask them, what went right? Have them write it down. What went wrong? Have them write them down. What would I do differently in the future? For those of you that have really large teams, you know, double digits, put them in small groups and have them share. and then you bring them back together as a group. And, ask people like, does anybody want to highlight some of the things that went well? Anybody want to share what they might have done differently? Okay. So last up, the team tune-ups. And this, again, when I decided to become an offsite owner, was imperative because I wasn't going to have that day-to-day with them. Okay. As the last year that I owned Gracie Pack, I was literally in the school twice a month. When we made the announcement that I was selling the school, half of the parents didn't even know who I was. Maybe that disgusts you. Maybe that excites you. You know what that tells you, though? It was not a personality-ran martial arts school, which most martial arts schools require the personality of the owner in there. I built a business. I didn't build something that was owner-operated, which made it very easy to sell. Okay? I did this every single month with my team members. I do it now monthly with my direct reports at GrowPro, quarterly with everybody in the company. I will never be the CEO that doesn't have a touch point with my team. So it's a one-on-one. It's 15 minutes, really. I mean, it should be quick. You could expand it to 30, okay? This is you showing that you care about your employees more than you care about the business. Really, really great book by Joey Coleman called Never Lose a Customer Again. He also wrote a book recently called Never Lose an Employee Again. And he kicks the book off saying, so many owners want to know, how do I get my team members to care as much as me? They shouldn't, okay? Your team members, you know what they want to know? That you care more about them than the business. That's what they want to know. And this is one of the ways that you can do this, okay? So, monthly one-on-one sessions, I provide them the questions ahead of time, and it's the same 6 questions every single time. So it lives in our Google Drive because I want them to really think and marinate on what are the answers to this. Number 1, what were some of your wins this month? And if you're doing this bi-weekly, if you're doing it weekly, it could be this week or it could be bi-weekly. Really just depends on the size of your team. Any challenges you are currently experiencing? I used to ask, what challenges are you currently experiencing? And sometimes people felt the need to make up a challenge that wasn't really a challenge. So I changed the verbiage. Any challenges you're currently experiencing. This number 3, you want to use the power of all the smart people on your team. You ask them this question. Is there anything you think we should be doing differently right now? I can't tell you the last time I did an appointment setting call or I did a sales call or I was teaching 5 days a week for 6 classes in a row. They're the front line. So often we are so disconnected from that front line. So is there anything you think we should be doing differently? You know how many systems that we've leveled up and evolved because of that one question? It's huge. Number 4, any resources you need. Oh, maybe my uniform's got a hole in it, right? Maybe the program director needs some new pens. Are there any resources you need? Is there anything I can help you with, or is there anything else you'd like to share? Minimum of once a month, guys. Let your employees know that you truly care about them, okay? So I provided, because we just went over a lot, but for some of you, I'm asking you score yourself. You're like, I'm a 4 and a 5 in this, or I'm a 1 and a 2 over here. So I wanted to provide you with this 30 Days to Excellent blueprint. So these 5 strategies, if you want to implement them, this is the order that I would implement them. If you've already implemented some of them, then you could just skip them, okay? Point system, week 1 in place, point system in place, and end of days submitted. And then I got an action step right next to it. What do you need to do? You got to determine where you're tracking these 2 systems. So I broke down how to implement this in 4 weeks. And then for each week, it has a sheet for it. So like week 1, you got to do the time audit, get the point system in place, and end of days submitted. And then there's just some questions you need to ask yourself. What metrics are we going to track in the end of day? Again, I'm going to give you this keynote so you can just R&D mine, but maybe you want to add others or take some away. How are you going to track the point system? Where is the EOD going to be sent? Is it a text message? Is it an email? Do you want them inputting it into a spreadsheet? Is it going to be Slack? Okay. Then we go to week 2. Same things. I give you the objectives, I give you the action step, and I give you the question you need to answer. Week 3, week 4, all of it's done for you guys, okay? So if you want access to that, let me drop it in the chat. It's Google Drive. Boom, there you go. Fantastic meeting today for sure. Such a great talk. The team tune-ups, just print this out, give it to our team, have them fill it out. And just no, the team tune-ups are the one-on-ones. That's done one-on-one. Okay, team tune-ups are done one-on-ones. So I'm a huge fan of Slack. We implement it in the martial arts school. We use it in the agency. It's a communication tool, guys. Allows you just to communicate if you're an offsite owner. I honestly cannot stand group text messages. I honestly think it's unprofessional to be texting employees. That's just my own personal take. All right. Maybe that's your jam. This is how we communicate anything that has to go on with the business. Will I text an employee about personal stuff, checking in with them? Yes. But if it has to do with the business, it goes in Slack. It's a freemium tool. So you can use it for free, but it will not save the data after 30 days. You have to pay per person. I think it's an investment that is worth it. And I can't imagine running any of my companies without it. So if you're trying to kind of, figure out a professional way where you're tracking all the conversations instead of having, some big group text messages, check out Slack. Thanks for sharing the blueprint. Always bringing valuable information. Thanks, Chris. PS. Happy belated birthday. All right, guys. Cool. So look, I don't pitch on these. I never pitch. Here's my question. Here's my offer. If you need a marketing audit done, just go to the Grow Pro website. All right. I didn't talk anything about marketing today at all. And I'm investing my time in you guys to help you level this up. All right. I'm just hoping that I can stay top of mind if you need your marketing taken care of. Do you know a good instructional video on Google Calendar? Honestly, I hate that this is going to be my answer, but I would just look on YouTube and I would look for the one that has the highest views. Usually if there are high views, like start seeing millions of views, okay, that's the one that I would start with. All right, one more time. Let me drop that drive in there. Appreciate you guys spending some of your time on Thursday and hope you have a great day. Bye, everybody. See ya.